How's it going, everybody? I recently returned from a family trip to Disney World in Orlando and finally got to experience Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Hollywood Studios. There were definitely some highs and there was definitely some lows. So let's break it all down from the perspective of a dad and his kids. Okay, a couple of notes before we start. First, everyone's experience at Disney World will differ based on luck, time of year, budget, and your own personal preferences. So I'll give you my review for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and if you stick around to the end, I'll also give some tips and tricks about kind of Walt Disney World and the whole planning and the parks and stuff like that. I've been a few times now, so there's definitely some things I'd recommend. And if you're a first-time person going and you're looking at bringing your kids with you, these tips could definitely be helpful in planning your trip with your family. So we went to Hollywood Studios on Saturday, April 30th. We were staying in a Walt Disney World resort, so we qualified for early access to the parks. If you don't know, if you stay at the resort, you get to go to the parks 30 minutes before kind of the general crowd gets there. And if you look at Galaxy's Edge, we also added the Genie Plus service, which kind of is like the replacement for their Fast Passes. Anyways, you can't get Rise of the Resistance with your Lightning Lane attached to your Genie Plus. Since it's a newer ride and one of the main attractions at the park, they don't let you do that. You have to buy your Lightning Lane separately if you wanted to do that. I'll have more on that later at the end about whether or not that's a good choice or not. But for all our intents and purposes, we showed up early. The plan was to be there right for the beginning of early access and to, not sprint, but to basically, haul ass to Galaxy's Edge and try to just get on the rides right first thing in the morning and beat the crowd. And sure enough, that's kind of what happened. We made our way back to Galaxy's Edge and it was more or less empty as we were some of the first people there. So the first one to check off our list was definitely the Rise of the Resistance because we knew that would be the hardest one to get on. So you need to be 40 inches to go on this. So only my son could come with me. My daughter was not tall enough. So her and my wife did their own thing and explored in Galaxy's Edge. And we pretty much walked on. And walking through the queue for this ride, it's obviously set up very long because they're expecting long waits. But it was just so... It felt like you were walking essentially through a movie set, right? Like it was so well designed and thought out, the aesthetic, the feel, everything. Like I couldn't get enough of it. It felt like you were like legit somewhere, you didn't like, not that you didn't feel like you were on Earth, but like you really felt like you were somewhat in Star Wars. And I know that's kind of it feels like that's the big emphasis on a lot of the Disney's new rides is really, really a lot of immersion. And walking through the queue of this ride it felt like you were walking through like a secret Resistance base. It was very, very cool to see all the stuff. I know my son was excited as we're walking through. You could see big crates of blasters and detonators and flight suits and all the cool stuff. And we pretty much made our way through. And the other thing too is it's I don't want to say you're going through a cave, but you're like going through like a bunker, right? So it's completely inside, so you don't have to worry about that hot sun outside, and more on that later. And you make your way down to the end, and then finally when you get to where the ride, I guess, somewhat starts, again, Disney's done this with a few of their different rides where you hit a certain part, and even though technically you're waiting still to go on the ride itself, there's like these like pre-stages of doing things. So you get into your flight room, you see BB-8, you do all this cool stuff, then you leave and you hop on the transport, Poe's talking to you, you can see his X-Wing there, you can see his head bobbing back and forth, BB-8's in it, you hop on that transport and you take off, and then on the inside the LED screens have all the stuff that's going on, and it's a really cool immersive way to get you into the moment. And then when you land, you're on a Star Destroyer. And the trippiest part of the ride for me was the transport you're on. It's it's the weird long thing you see in The Force Awakens, right? You get on, and you can see a door. Like you walk in the middle of it, right? And the other side is a door. So when you're on there, you're full on expecting when you land on the Star Destroyer, the other side's going to open up to continue that ride. But no, the door you came in is what opens, And when you turn around and look back through it, you're on the deck of a Star Destroyer. It was really trippy because I was full on expecting the other thing. So I don't know what kind of movie magic they did in the background, but it's pretty cool. And then you walk out in the Star Destroyer. I know if you've seen videos and pictures from other people, it all looks the same. There's a bunch of animatronics First Order stormtroopers out there. Again, really cool. And then they kind of march you through. It's really cast member heavy here. So the people working the ride take you through. They make you line up again. I feel like this is just like you're still kind of in queue waiting for the ride. But they walk you through. You eventually get grouped up. You get thrown in your interrogation room. You wait there for a while. You get busted out. And then finally the ride actually starts. And you hop on your little movable cart. You go do all the stuff. And then it ends. My son loved this ride, and the smile on his face when we got off, like that's the whole reason why I bring my kids to these things. I know a lot of people say kids won't remember, and sure, true, they won't remember some things, but they got to remember some sort of feeling some type of way, right? And just how happy he was after that ride makes everything so worthwhile. And even overhearing some people in the park and talking to some people on the buses, a lot of people have stated that ride is by far the best ride, and even Smugglers Run in old Disney. Now that the positives are out of the way, I have some nitpicking and some negatives. Yes, the ride was fun. Yes, it was, I very much enjoyed myself. But for it being kind of the crown jewel of Galaxy's Edge and seeing what they've done at some of the other rides at the parks in the area, I was a tad bit let down. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I'll always hold Star Wars to a higher standard than other things, and it's my own fault. But that's just the way I am. That's the way my brain works. So anyways, into the nitpicking. First off, like repeatability, replayability, re-rideability, however you want to say this. I don't know how high it's going to be for this ride. Like a roller coaster, solid coaster, you can go over that over and over and over again and get that thrill. This ride, I'm definitely obviously going to do it again. I'll do it multiple times. I'll do it anytime my kids ask me to do it. But I don't know how much I'm chomping at the bit to go, get thrown in jail and literally have to stand there for, 10 minutes waiting for the next part of the ride to start. That immersion, again, it's cool, but I don't know how long lasting it'll be unless they're able to change up the ride some way, somehow to freshen it up. Other things, when you're getting shot at with the lasers, I found, again, this was just my run through. I don't know if something was broken or it wasn't going the way it was. A lot of times they shot the lasers, it would just wherever the muzzle was, that side of the wall would flash a little bit. But there was no in the space that you occupy, there was no light ever flying through like a laser. I feel with Disney tech, they would have been able to do that. I don't know. Maybe you don't want lasers hitting people in the eye and causing them to go blind. I don't know if they've invented gentler lasers without having issues, but it left me a little bit wanting. It took a little of the thrill out of it. And then there's a part where you roll into a room with 3 turbo lasers firing. You can see them firing on other ships. And I think out of the 3, 1 briefly lit up green. But when I see that scene, I can't help but think about Revenge of the Sith when General Grievous' capital ship is firing off at some Venator cruisers, and you see the recoil, you see the shells hitting the ground. Just those audible cues and even some of the visuals would have go a million miles to make that part of the ride just feel a little more we're potentially in, danger here, right? So yeah, I was just a little lacking, and those are just my nitpicks. Again, these are probably things that can be maybe adjusted in the future. I don't know, but it is what it is. So once we rolled off that ride, the park appeared to be getting a little bit busier. We bolted over Smugglers Run, and again, this ride was 38 inches. So again, my daughter, who was 36 inches, could not come on. So it was just me and my son. And again, the lineup and queue for this ride is so cool. You got Hondo talking to you. You got like parts and robot, like just all the lead up is so cool. And then when you actually see, you can see like the interior edge of the Falcon. And then when you walk on the Falcon, awesome. You can't help but feel, I don't know, a little emotional when you're like actually feels like you're physically standing on it. They do such a good job with the aesthetic, the creation, the design, all that stuff is, again, top notch. And then when you get on the Falcon, you go on in pairs of 6. Me and my son were both chosen to be the pilots. One controls up and down, one controls left and right. The other 4 people are gunners and engineers. And the ride was it's just meh. Like it's not the best ride I've been on. It's not the worst ride. It's basically jacked up Star Tours. Maybe I gotta go through and play some of the roles, but like I would say it was good. Wasn't great. The walk up was great. Ride was good. And again, the ride was good for me. My son, beaming ear to ear, loved it. He crashed that Falcon. He couldn't figure out up or down and hit every obstacle on the way. But he had a blast. And at the end of the day, that is what it's all about. So we get off Smugglers Run. It is now slammed Galaxy's Edge, and it is mid-90s the week we were staying here in Florida. So it didn't take long to walk, halfway across Galaxy's Edge to start feeling a little moist below the waist and start the uncomfortableness starting to set in. But we went out, we checked out, the X-Wing, the A-Wing, the TIE Echelon, and then obviously the Falcon. And just, seeing these ships, and especially the Falcon, kind of to scale it's really cool. As a kid, you always imagine, like, how big are these ships actually? Like, what would they look like in real life? And being able to see them there, them set up, and you got like gases and stuff flying out of them and sound effects going off. It was definitely very, very cool to just walk around and see. So we tried to explore some other things, and so let's talk about Savi's lightsaber, the workshop there. When we booked this trip about a month in advance, and we looked to book an appointment for this, and there was nothing available. Nothing. We put on an alert if an appointment opened up, nothing came up. And if you read it on the app description, it says there actually is potentially some walk-ins they'll accept the day of. So we cruised over to where it is, and we were talking to the people there, and they kind of just basically laughed at us and basically, no, there's no chance. Not a chance you're getting in here. It's like, it is the most, they made it essentially seem it's the hardest ticket in town to get in there and build your lightsaber. So that was really disappointing. Like, I don't even care what the quality of lightsaber and all that stuff is. For me, it was the experience and wanting to see my son go in there, fit those parts together, get his crystal, light that lightsaber up. So I didn't get to do that this time around with him, which is disappointing. So hopefully next time we can find space in it. So when we couldn't get the lightsaber booking, I didn't bother booking the droid because there was a few droid openings, and I was really hoping to do that lightsaber thing. And then once we got to the park, we realized we couldn't do the lightsaber thing, and we see other people and kids walking around with the droids. We realized we might have dropped the ball on this one. It was something my son would have loved to do. So once we were there, we could no longer get any appointments in any of the days, even if we park hopped over. And again, we went to the Droid Depot shop and asked them, can we get in? Is there any walk-ins? Like, what's the deal? And they also said no chance. So those two build things, even though they're an additional cost, are very, very popular. And if you are planning that trip, I suggest you try to book them as soon as advanced as possible, or else you'll definitely miss out. The other thing too is I went to visit Dok Ondar's antique store, whatever it is, where they sell like the lightsabers and all the cool goods. It had probably a 15 to 20 minute lineup just to get in the store. I knew I wasn't going to be dropping a few $100 on a lightsaber or anything else, so I passed. But it was kind of crappy. I didn't get to walk through there. And again, like, I know it's not a big deal, wait 15 minutes, but like, it's 95 degrees out, and I got 2 young kids who don't want to stand in line and screaming. So it was an easy thing to kind of eliminate off the list. And then lastly, the last thing we did in Galaxy's Edge was Oga's Cantina. We had reservations in the evening for this. So what it is, you get 45 minutes. They seat you at a random table with other people. And you basically can order, you're basically sitting at a bar. And it is a really cool bar. Like if this bar was in my city, I would frequent it multiple times per week. It was really cool. And again, the part I loved about Galaxy's Edge, and I've hammered it home a few times, was just the design, the aesthetic, the very, the attention to detail they took in setting some of the stuff up. Very, very beautiful. The drinks were great. Even the kids' drinks were, entertaining. They had a carbonite freeze that constantly bubbled the whole time. Expensive, very expensive drinks. You're looking at $18, $20 per drink. But it's, again, you're only in there for 45 minutes. So it's definitely a cool experience. It gets you out of the sun and the crowd. Even though there's a crowd in there, at least you get a seat. So it's something I would recommend. And again, it was hard to get a reservation there, and we managed to. So if you are booking a trip, try to get in. And now it's just some final notes on Galaxy's Edge itself. Now that it's there, and that's kind of Star Wars hub, poor Star Tours, a 5-minute walk away. When I was there, it had a 5-minute standby wait the entire day. You could have rode Star Tours 10 times if you wanted to and not waited a single time. I love Star Tours. There's some nostalgia there. And, the Galaxy's Edge is all sequel trilogy happy. At least at Star Tours, you do get prequel and original trilogy stuff. And every time you go on it, it could be a different ride every time, which is definitely cool. Me and my son went on it twice. Each time he was the Rebel Spy. The first time we had a sequel trilogy ride through Death Star 2 wreckage on that moon, on that Endor moon. And the second time through, we had... It was weird. It was kind of started with an original trilogy with Vader and TIE fighters and stuff like that, but it ended up being, a chase through Coruscant, which was... it was cool. My son liked that one too. Star Tours, very, very user-friendly to get on. There's not much waiting. I think it was just a few years ago, Star Tours, I was waiting 50 minutes in lineup. So that was definitely a benefit. And then the Star Wars launch bay, I don't know. They used to have characters in there and a bunch of movie props and stuff like that. It didn't have much anymore. All I saw was just some posters. They called it when we went in, they said enjoy this little Star Wars museum. So it's pretty much nothing anymore. They used to have a couple years ago all the First Order and Phasma and Kylo Ren marching through Hollywood studios everywhere. That was no longer happening. It was a different parade. I think it was Disney Junior people. I don't know if that just rotates or because Galaxy's Edge is there now, they don't do the big Star Wars parades. And the last Star Wars note was the fireworks were unavailable. So there was no... I don't know if it's... Again, if they rotate, if it's the Star Wars fireworks or the Fantasia ones. But either way, the fireworks were not available when I was there at night. So wrap up my review of Galaxy's Edge. Solid addition to Hollywood Studios and Walt Disney World in general. It, given it's been there for a couple years now, it's still slammed busy. Hollywood Studios was always kind of my favorite park, and now it is definitely my favorite park. It's the one that I think you can spend the most time at because you still have all the OG stuff, and now you have Galaxy's Edge attached to it, and you have Toy Story Land, which is new as well. Not as much stuff for smaller children to do at Hollywood Studios, but if they're in that 5, 6, 7-year-old plus range, in my personal taste, I think it's one of the better, if not the best park in Disney World. So as an adult with kids, I've now been to Disney World 3 times in that scenario. And I have picked up a few tips and tricks along the way. And let me share those with you now if you're interested. And let me know in the comments if there's something else I should be doing. For sure, let me know because I know I'll probably be going back in, 2 years. So let's first start off. The Disney Magical Express, whatever it is, if you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort on the property, no longer gives you the free bus ride. The easiest way to get to your resort is just taking an Uber. So just take an Uber. It's by far what I found was the cheapest option and the quickest. So this time around, I stayed at the Art of Animation, and we previously stayed at the Contemporary and All-Star Movies. And if you are very budget conscious and you only want, the room to basically sleep in, you're planning on being in the park all day, and you want to save some money, go to one of those All-Star Movies, music, sports resorts. They're definitely the bottom tier, but they are significantly cheaper than everything else. The Contemporary was great. It has a great restaurant in the building, and you're right on the monorail. So you have really, really easy access to Magic Kingdom and Epcot through there. And this time around at Art of Animation, they have something new called the Skyliner, and it's basically a gondola ride. So the Art of Animation and Pop Century are right beside each other, and the Skyliner is in between them. And so this gondola basically takes you from there to another resort, and then from that resort you get off, and you can go to Hollywood Studios, or you can go to Epcot. Very, very convenient, especially if you're doing the Hollywood Studios and you want to have maybe quick access to get back and forth real quick. It was definitely very quick, very easy. The gondola could fit, I think, 8 people, but in the mornings and afternoons, it's not very busy at all. So you basically get your own private gondola ride each way. At nighttime, if there's a big lineup, they tend to cram some extra people in there. But it was nice to if you have a single stroller, you don't even have to fold your stroller, just pop the stroller right in. Kids sit in there and you just wait to get to your destination. A lot easier than cramming on a bus and waiting in those bus lines. And then if you are staying on the Disney World resorts, you get early access to the park. So 30 minutes before you can access those parks. And for Hollywood Studios, it was great because I got to do all those big rides with no lineup. Got there, right, you're with little kids, you're probably going to be up early anyway. So make the effort, get there right early and just get them done. And then you're at the park for so long, it'd be super easy to take a break in the afternoon. We would, after lunch, we hopped on the Skyliner, took it back to the Art of Animation. Kids played in the pool for a couple hours, showered off, and then we got ready, hopped back on the Skyliner, back to the park, and then we did some more rides, had dinner and all that cool stuff. The showing up early also worked at Magic Kingdom. I got on Space Mountain. That was probably the first ride I was going to go for. Not much lineup at all, but it didn't really work at Animal Kingdom. Now, at Animal Kingdom compared to the other resorts, there's just one top dog ride, and that's the Avatar Flight of Passage. At Hollywood Studios, yes, the Rise of Resistance is a big one, but there's also, the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster is a great coaster. They got the Tower of Terror. There's still the Falcon Smugglers Run, the Slinky Dog ride, and the Toy Story Mania ride are whole huge lineups too. So there's a lot more variety there to spread people up. At Animal Kingdom, it's literally just the Avatar ride, which everyone goes for. I was there early access, and when I got to that Avatar ride, it was I think 160 minutes was the standby lineup. No thank you. So we pivoted and did a lot of the early stuff first. We did the Navi River ride, the Safari ride, even the Everest roller coaster. All those things had basically no lineups in the morning because everybody was in Avatar. So let's talk about pivot. So let's pivot now to lightning lanes and stuff like that. The Avatar ride is like Rise of the Resistance. It's not included in your Genie Plus lightning lanes. So you have to buy it separately. And my recommendation would be just to buy it. It's, I think, $10 or $11 US, and you will save 2 to 3 hours of your life and not having to wait in that hot sun for that ride. Just pay the $11. It's the cost of a beer. Drink one less beer and just get the lightning lane and pick a time and go on it whenever you want. The ride is a must if you're at Animal Kingdom, and just do the lightning lane. Just be smart about it. And now the Genie Plus lightning lanes, I've heard multiple people say it wasn't worth it because you only get basically 2 rides out of it and that's it. And I would challenge people on that. We got probably 5 to 6 rides at each park from our lightning lanes. If you're someone who's like, I only want to do this ride, and you don't get it, and the only closest lightning lane is like 1 in the afternoon, you pick it. And then you're like, I only want to do this one other ride, and then you pick it and it's at 6 o'clock at night. Yeah, you're probably only ever going to do 2 rides. right? But if you show up early, you hit the big guys without having to use a lightning lane, then you could use your lightning lane for all those mid-tier rides, and you could literally, every hour or 2 hours, you can literally hit up another lightning lane. I think at Magic Kingdom, we probably had 7 or 8 lightning lanes alone. So it's all on how you plan and set things up. You know what I mean? Like, use the lightning lane to your advantage. Don't wait 30 minutes for the Pirates of the Caribbean or don't wait an hour for Winnie the Pooh or Peter Pan. Use your lightning lane on that. If you don't see an availability for, say, Splash Mountain all day long, bite the bullet and wait for that one ride, but then use your lightning lane for everything else, and you get it done super efficiently in the least amount of waiting as possible. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for me. I've been rambling on here for a long time about Disney, but let me know if any of this was helpful, and let me know what your experience is with Galaxy's Edge. Did you love it? Do you share some of the same sentiments I have? I'd love to hear what you think, and we'll see you all in the next video, everyone. Peace out. Smugglers Run is essentially, the ride itself is basically like it's like a souped up Star Tours. As far as screen rides go, like non-roller coaster rides, the Avatar Flight of Passage is hands down still the best ride in Disney World. Again, non-coaster. It's just the immersion in that one really, really draws me in, and it is just so cool flying and diving, through waves and the jungle and all that stuff. I didn't get the same, when I do the Avatar ride, it is thrilling. I am literally on my edge of my seat. The thing you're riding, I love it so much. It is so cool. And I was kind of hoping that with how popular and how good that ride was, some of that tech would cross over to one of these rides at Galaxy Edge. And I just felt it just didn't for me. That Avatar ride is still the best ride.